Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition is Neverwinter Nights 1 worth playing in 2021. After 20 years, I decided to replay Neverwinter Nights 1 and test how it stands against the time. I remember playing Neverwinter Nights 1 on its release date on my Square monitor, and I remember my PC could barely run the game on low-medium settings. I remember long loading screens, 20 frames per second, tons of crashes and bugs, but I still finished Neverwinter Nights, and it was a blast 20 years ago, a complete breakthrough in CRPG genre. But how about now? Game is 20 years older, I'm 20 years older too. Time flies, and a flashback of how it used to be happened with Neverwinter. So, let's go straight to sections and rate this old school CRPG properly as it deserves. First section is the story. The story of Neverwinter is classic save the world, in this case save the city of Neverwinter from the ongoing plague that's destroying the city and discover the thing that's behind it all. The trip will take you from streets and districts of Neverwinter all the way to other realms and dimensions. Presentation of story is outdated, to be honest. Conversations, they're in 90% of time lame with bad writing, and there are 4 cutscenes, or better to say cinematics, that look more like a comic book video than actual video cinematic. So, 5 out of 10 for story. Game bugs and optimization as the next section. The game is clean, no bugs, one single crash in my entire run, 1 second loading screens, and it will work on a toaster too. So, 10 out of 10. Next section is game time. It takes around 50 to 60 hours to finish the main campaign on the hardest difficulty, and it will take around 20 to 30 hours to finish its 2 DLCs, along with God knows how many modules and solid replay value. We're looking at 150 hours long game for the fans of the genre. This is a very, very long CRPG, in other words, so it's gonna get 10 out of 10. Next section is game difficulty. It really depends on the player, I guess, and of course on the difficulty you decide to play on. I cleared 95% of side quests in the main campaign on the hardest difficulty, and I only had problems with maybe 3 fights in the entire game. Or better to say, they took more than 3 or 4 tries, in other words. Neverwinter Nights 1 DLCs and modules are a different topic, and they're a lot harder on harder difficulties. 8 out of 10, because this game, it offers challenge and it actually demands knowledge in leveling in order to finish, you know. So 8 out of 10. Maps and graphics. I'll be honest, graphics are completely outdated since this was the very first 3D isometric real-time action CRPG. If you don't mind the old 3D graphics like me, then you won't have any problems playing Neverwinter Nights 1. But even I notice bland and washed up environments and backgrounds, in the open especially. Tombs and dungeons are a bit better for sure. There is no world map, only mini-map and spreads into other mini-maps and so on until you reach the end. Minimap and UI are solid for 20 years old game. They still look nice and clean. Diversity in maps is huge. Caves, dungeons, cities, villages, other realms, catacombs, tombs, graveyards, snowy areas, etc. 6 out of 10 for maps and graphics. Next section, gameplay. The most important section. It's a classic real-time with pauses CRPG where you'll discover, explore, fight, fetch, rest, trade, sneak, and loot. So how does it feel playing in 2021 is a different topic now. Combat system is scarce and outdated, especially if you play with melee classes. In most cases, you'll buff up with potions and right-click on enemies until they die. It gets repetitive very fast, and till you reach the end, it will become a freaking chore. Immersion is also very low. Choices and consequences are there, but conversations are so poorly written that it doesn't even matter what you pick in conversations. You get to play with one companion. He or she will get stuck on every door, trigger traps on accident, die, and there is no inventory on them unless you install mods, but then they become OP and the game balance is ruined. No matter how you put it, this type of gameplay is outdated and it didn't age well at all. 5 out of 10. Leveling and itemization is the next section. Leveling in this game depends on races and classes you decide to play with. There are 7 races and 23 classes to pick from. You can even mix classes on leveling. Whatever class and build you imagine, Neverwinter Nights 1 covers it. Now, every class comes with its subclass, so imagine the numbers of different builds you can play. Now, how does that transfer in reality? When the game unfolds and you see the icon to level up, it feels like clicking next, next, and finish. Pick a feat on every third level and finish. It doesn't feel rewarding or satisfying enough. Itemization also, dear God, inventory is a complete mess. You'll be encumbered 90% of time, while 99% of items you find won't be for the class or a subclass you're playing with. Good luck carrying items if you don't pick a melee class, because strength is what you need in order to carry more items. Now, good luck with a freaking wizard or a sorcerer. You won't be able to pick pots. You'll end up rich with gold and poor with items. And you'll end up encumbered, probably. It doesn't stink and it doesn't smell well, so this section will get 5 out of 10. NPCs and enemies is the next section. A lot of NPCs in the game, but they all feel generic, soulless, and brainless. Enemies, on the other hand, are done much better. We got everything from goblins and orcs to skeletons, spiders, and dragons. Variety of enemies is huge for such an old game. I liked bosses in the game. Some of them were quite hard to beat on the hardest difficulty. 7 out of 10 for NPCs and enemies. Last section is music and sound. Epic main theme of Neverwinter. Some great nostalgic tunes along the journey. Can't believe I even remember them after 20 years of not playing Neverwinter Nights 1. Sound effects are great, voice acting is bad, and only main parts of the game are voice acted. 8 out of 10 for music and sound. Conclusion. We got 9 sections with 64 points, and that would be 7.1 out of 10 for Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition. 20 years ago, this was a 9 out of 10 CRPG, but in 2021, it's just old nostalgic trip to the past. I had fun with the game after all. 7 out of 10 is a solid score for 20 years old game, alright? From Neverwinter Nights 1, we got Neverwinter Nights 2, we got Masterpiece in Dragon Age Origins, we got Witcher 1 in Neverwinter Nights Engine. Neverwinter Nights 1 just created ground for all of the great games that came after it, and for that reason, it still stands among the greatest names in a genre. For me, it was a trip in time long forgotten when I first encountered 3D isometric CRPG, and it felt very weird to play this game again after so many years. I'm glad I did though. Should you do the same? Yeah, I believe Neverwinter Nights deserves one run from every CRPG player in the world. I thank you all for watching, and I'll be seeing you on the next one.